Hi there, I'm Jen Hand, your food coach for helping you end your battle with eating. And today's question is it okay to have any food rules? And this is sort of a trick question, but I really wanted to talk about the subject of food rules. I teach so much about letting go of food rules and loosening restrictions and softening your way of eating and beginning to listen to your body and not have a should, not a have to, not some rule that you're following, and beginning to really get in touch with letting go and softening all of that rigidity around food. But the reality is we kind of do live with rules, and I really like to think of them as guidelines. So, for example, I go to bed by 9:30. I journal every day. I meditate every day. I call my parents, once a week, every other week. So these are rules I have for myself, but they don't make me crazy. So here is what I want you to know about rules. Examine why you're doing it and whether or not it makes you crazy. So if I made a rule for myself of I'm going to cut out carbs, why am I doing that? Probably because I'm like, I'm secretly going to lose weight from cutting out carbs. Or another health reason that it's healthier, I'm better if I cut out carbs, I have more willpower, this is for me, in my own head, some ridiculous thing I'll make up of I'm gonna cut out carbs. Will it make me crazy? Yes. So not a food rule and not a rule I wanna follow. But if I say, I wanna move my body more, what's the reason behind it, or what's the why behind it? I want to move my body more because it feels good, because I've been really sedentary and really lethargic lately, and I want to just get outside and move myself more because I know it gives me more energy. Would it make me crazy? No, it's a very gentle, soft rule. So I know a lot of the time I talk about food rules and letting go and loosening and softening. And I want you to understand that we do live by guidelines. And so reframing rules as guidelines can be really helpful. In the Normal Eaters Club, I teach a way of eating that are guidelines to help you start to rebalance your body so you can get into deeper stuff. And they're not rules. You don't have to, it's not a rigid plan you have to follow. It's a gentle guideline to give you some focus. So when you're looking at your own food rules or life rules, I want you to ask yourself two questions. The first is, what's my why? What's the reason behind it? And the second thing is it going to make me crazy? Because cutting out carbs for one person can be very different. And I would say, especially if you're at the beginning of the journey, it's usually erring on the side of I'm going to do this to lose weight. I'm going to do this for to make it easier to just be healthier, or whatever reason we have. Whereas someone much farther down the road might actually feel better when they don't have heavy carbs. Is it going to make you crazy? And so that, I think, is the big one, because you can have a food rule or a guideline, and let's use the word guideline, shall we? Let's reframe it into guidelines, because there are guidelines in a lot of the things that we do. And I have a few women in the Normal Eaters Club who are sort of confused about isn't this a diet, and isn't anything that we say that's a guideline still a diet? And it was a great question, because it opened up this whole conversation around when is a rule make you crazy, and when does it serve you? And so I like to think of rules that serve you as things that are soft, things that feel good, things that serve you. And me going to bed early, calling my parents, journaling, meditating, trying to move my body, those things don't feel like a mandated, rigid rule I have to follow. They feel soft, they feel gentle, they feel kind to myself. And they don't make me crazy. And if I don't move my body, I don't move my body. If I don't call my parents, I don't call my parents, or I call them next week. So it's like in the breaking of the guideline, does that set you back? Does that send you into a spiral of control? Because if your guideline is, I don't eat sweets after dinner, where is that coming from? Is it coming from this place of rigidity and harshness and criticism that you can't do this, that it's a mean way to punish yourself? Or is it something I'm really knowing myself, and I know that once I start after dinner, I can't stop. And we actually had this conversation also in the Normal Eaters Club about like what works for you. So there are times I can keep brownies in my house and there are times I can't. There are times when I make something or someone sends me food and I put it in the trunk of my car to give to someone when I see them, because I'm like, I cannot have that in my house because that's what I'm gonna think about all day. So it's not a rule, it's just what works for you. So when you're thinking about the guidelines you have for yourself, I want you to reflect on two questions. The first is, what is my why/reason behind this? And the second is this making me crazy? Because that'll give you your answer as to whether it's a soft, gentle, kind idea or guideline or suggestion that serves you, or whether it's a rigid, harsh, critical, punishing rule that you have for yourself. So I'd love to hear from you. This is a conversation that I could talk about all day. So I'd love to hear from you about whether you have questions around, well, is this a rule? Is this not a rule? And just exploring this topic in more in depth, because I think my aim is to get you to listen to your body and your wisdom and what works for you, and all of the things that I teach, all of the things that I talk about on my vlogs and in my writing is to help you see what works for you and to go inside yourself and not to have another rule, create something else that you have to follow, but to really reflect on, is this right for me? So I'd love to hear from you. This is a great conversation and I'm curious to hear your thoughts.